make comments or answer questions, as this is your time of public comment to address your concerns. No time shall be shared. Each individual will have their own time. All right, first up is Bob Ferguson.
Yes, thank you. I got these off the desk out front. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but it has a good compilation of what we expect from the public, from our commissioners. I don't know if everybody heard me talking to them. Okay. All right, first off, I would like to see a open house at the animal center down here. Before it opens, have an open house, invite the public so we can all come in, meet the people who work there, see what the facilities are, and let us all become accustomed to dealing with it. Okay? So, you know, the politics, the way they are these days, we had a voting Congress today, 427 to 1, to open up the government and release the files. So that's kind of a tricky situation, but now it's halfway done. And, you know, looking at Swain County politics, we've had a sheriff and a county commissioner chair both resign here recently. And, you know, that's not looking good. You know, when people look at Swain County, they go, what the hell is going on? So be careful, you know, be good, be kind. I spoke here a while back about when I joined the Road to Nowhere business. And, you know, I talked to 100 people in Swain County about the Road to Nowhere. And they all said, well, you give the politicians money, they'll just steal it. That's how people feel, you know. And, you know, I talked with a bunch of people about the former sheriff, and they all said, well, he ain't a pretty picture. That's for 20 years, that's hundreds of people, you know. I mean, have you guys talked to the citizens much?
All the time.
You know, I suggest you do that. You know, these meetings are required by law, and you got your thumb on everybody in here. And I've never seen anybody, I've been in 100 meetings, I've never seen anybody kicked out of a meeting before. I was once, but that was with Duke Power, you know, and they had to get rid of me because I was against them. But, you know, the citizens, and you guys, we're not in opposition, you know. We're here to work together to make Swain County a better place. And that's why y'all got elected, right?
Hopefully. I want to make it better.
So, you know, I'm just a Joe from lives up in the mountains. And, you know, I can run my mouth all I want. But you guys, you make decisions, you know. And so do what you can. Do it right. Be good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on down, Fred Crawford.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Fred Crawford. I live in Whittier, where my wife and I run Dogwood Farm on Conley's Creek. I'm here tonight to talk about two things. First, about the animal control ordinance. I may not be able to make the December 4th meeting, so I wanted to go ahead and share a few thoughts. First, I want to brag on Gina Wiggins for a minute. I want to commend Gina for her work and leadership in this difficult issue. She's put a lot of time and her heart into this, and much of it outside of her regular job duties, in service to this community, and I'm grateful for her and the committee's work. And now let me be clear. I believe the construction of the animal control facility is a separate discussion, and I want to set that aside for a moment. I believe many lessons can be taken from that construction project, and I hope that we keep those lessons in mind as we move into future projects with the county. As for the ordinance itself, back in 2018, I was one of the folks who worked with Chairman Ben Bushyhead and pushed for the animal control ordinance. I believed we needed one then, and I believe we need one now. It's been my experience when I was in government that writing new public policy is tough. And there's a right way to do it and a wrong way. The recent announcement that the Animal Control Committee will hold a public meeting to receive comments from everybody, including hunters, farmers, and dog owners, to give their input is the right way to do it. And I'm glad to see that's happening before it goes to the board for a vote. I'm also glad to see that the committee has included my suggestions and the suggestions of others to reference state law regarding hunting dogs within that ordinance. Including this language is very important. Folks need to know that their rights aren't being messed with, especially those hunters. And I'm pleased that the draft includes penalties for false complaints and better definitions of what counts for cruelty or neglect. Those of us who've been on a farm know that a skinny cow picking on a poor pasture or a hound dog showing a few ribs isn't animal cruelty. Clear definitions contained in the ordinance will help cut down on unnecessary complaints and will help citizens better understand when cases of cruelty or neglect should be reported. So again, thank you, Gina, and everyone on that committee. I hope that people who care about this issue will show up on December 4th or send their comments to the committee in writing. The second thing I want to talk about is something to correct the record. At the October 21st meeting, when the board was talking about how to fill the vacancy for the chairman's seat, my name showed up on a list of 12 people being considered. What did not get mentioned is that I had withdrawn my name from consideration a week before that meeting. I pulled my name because I'm an independent. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. The law said that the replacement had to come from the Republican Party, and I respect that process and felt that the people of this county deserved a Republican to fill that vacancy. And I think Chairman Kirkland will do a great job in this role. I also want the public to know that I have filed as a candidate for chairman of the board and plan to run as an independent. Because of North Carolina's two-party system, I'm required to collect a whole lot of petitions on my petition signatures by March 3rd in order to appear on the ballot come November. So if anyone wants to sign that petition, you can email me at Crawford for Swain, that's all one word, crawfordforswain@gmail.com, or text me at 828-347-2954. And I'll meet you to help get this petition going. Finally, I want to thank each of you for your service to the county. And if there's, I want you to know if there's anything that I can do to help, please let me know. I'd like to be of assistance any way I can in service to this county. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you. All right, next, Jesse Fortner.
Good evening. Jess Fortner, Kirkland's Creek Community. So I'm also going to talk about things related to animal control, but probably not what you're thinking about. I'm just here because I know there's been a lot of discussion being floated around about the idea of like passing it off and having someone else work on it. But I just want to talk about like why that is not going to work. So just to be perfectly clear, I worked as a kennel tech and eventually worked my way up doing vaccinations, pretty much about everything at Paul's between 2015 and 2020. So I have a little experience on the inner workings of that, and I'm just trying to clarify that like what Paul's does is very different. And I mean, I'm not speaking for them because I'm obviously no longer an employee, but just from my experience, I'm just kind of recounting that to you because I feel like there might be some miscommunication on just kind of the difference between like an animal control and like a private shelter. So as I've said, about 2020, I left Paws, and at that time in July, we had 50 calls of wanting 50 animals wanting to be placed. And so there is a need for animal control. It's a very silent kind of problem. So a lot of, you're not going to be hearing about because animals can't come up here and tell you, obviously, hey, I don't have a roof over my head. So, I'm here trying to communicate some of that to you. And I know those numbers are probably only increased as the number of people have increased. And they could always fluctuate. When you have peak puppy and kitten season, you could get near 100 animals looking for a place to stay. And I worked at 5 years answering calls and had to tell people, sorry, we do not have room. So if you give a facility like your building to a private no-kill shelter, it doesn't matter if it's Paws or not, they're going to fill that up within the month. And we're back to, sorry, we're full, no room. A open intake facility, which people often call a kill shelter, has a purpose. It has a point that it works in with conjunction with some of these nonprofits, foster networks, and I encourage people to reach out, with these foster networks, create foster networks, go out and about and try to help with like an animal control shelter so that we don't have to have high euthanasia rates. But it has a place. There needs to be a place for animals to go when they need to go there. And so, for instance, I adopted my dog from the shelter I worked at. He was there for 3 years. That's 3 years of an animal not being able to go into a kennel, not being able to have a roof over its head because that dog was sitting there for 3 years. So it's great. I love what they did for him. I love that he got a chance. I love my dog, but that's not animal control. That's not going to be the solution for the long term. And so I'm just kind of here trying to extend an olive branch, be like, hey, if you guys got questions about things you think might pertain to the shelter and like what another type of shelter might do, I have some background in that. I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but I worked for 5 years in a shelter, so I can kind of be called on. You got my number, contacts. I'm more than happy to talk about, animal welfare. It's one of my passions. And once again, just encourage people, if you want to reach out, do something, if you need help contacting different groups. I've met some people during my time, there, I know different groups out there. I still to this day, I'm surprised how many people recognize me from working at Paws and will say, hey, I found a kitten, or hey, there's this dog. What do I need to do? And, and I can give them the best advice I can give them, try to get them in connection with the right people. But, I'm no longer working at the shelter, so I do what I can. I don't like seeing an animal, go without. So that's pretty much all I have. Just, I don't want you guys to like abandon this project. I feel like, there's been a lot of stuff people have talked about, a lot of hiccups along the way, but I feel like, we're making some good ground, and I hate to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Anything worth doing is, worth doing right. So I appreciate the ability to speak here and hope that we'll have some discussions in the future, maybe even December 4th, if, I can make it or whatever, just reach out to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Gina Wiggins.
Hello, I'm Gina Wiggins. I live in Whittier. I serve on the Animal Ordinance Committee. I want to make sure that everyone knows about this meeting on Thursday, December the 4th. It's an Animal Ordinance Committee question and answer session. It'll be 5:30 here in this room. We will The Animal Ordinance Committee will be here. We will take public questions. You are welcome to submit your questions prior to. There is an email address. It is administration@swaincounty.nc.gov. Is that correct, Cindy? Or you can drop your questions here at the building. Make sure they get to administration. We will do our best to try to answer any questions that anyone has on Thursday, December the 4th at 5:30 here in the administration building. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, Ed Mercer.
Thank you all for letting me talk to you again. I appreciate all of you, every one of you. Like seeing everybody here, more people, honestly. You know, community involvement. Thank you for the way you started the meeting. You've already made change. I notice a lot, and it's been consistent, that we have committees that help determine things in the county. Is there a way that we could be put on a list so other people could maybe join committees, is what I'd like to know. So there's other ways where we can have our input, or because it's a select few because of knowledge of when they're happening or whatnot, or for some other reason. Is there a way that there could be some kind of notice that there are committees that are available for public to step forward? I don't get the paper. I mean, for obvious reasons. I just don't like all negativity. And I had a problem with the last newspaper editor. Okay. Help me think, I lost my track. And so, I mean, and there's things like this, and you can't imagine the pleasure it is to drive down and leave my house and go down River Road towards Darnell. Thank you guys again for cleaning up that homeless camp, okay? I see great things with some of the land that the county owns. If the public takes notice and takes care, and we have things we can still do, okay? That's a good proof of it, and things aren't stopping there. Cleaning up and being aware and caring about what's happening in our community, but having a voice and actually doing something. Everybody can go home and and it goes nowhere, but actually putting a foot forward and doing something. So y'all are aggressive and continue. There's a lot of work to be done on issues. We really never know about things until they're finished. So even though I don't get the newspaper, there should be another way to know when committees are being formed. I mean, y'all know ahead of time. Okay, and I don't listen to the news anymore. Okay, I could care less what happens in Greenville or Asheville. I care about my town. Extremely, my town is what I care about. There's issues coming up, and we'll address them. Okay, guaranteed, we're going to address the issues that are coming up. That's our privilege and our right. We're not always welcomed because we have differing opinions and ways we go about doing them. But once again, thank you. I'm just out of curiosity, how close are we for the animal shelter?
Sheltered about 98, 99%.
Because I noticed there was
Probably
drilling.
3 more days, it'd be finished.
Okay.
About all we'll be waiting is getting the gas hooked up to the water heater. It's the biggest thing we got.
That seems to be a big question. Everybody's asking when, and they don't understand. I noticed last week they were a bit boring under the road. Okay, so we could hook up there.
That's all.
It's just been a good question, so we do know when. Couple of days ago, I guess it was Friday, I had cabin guests check in. And lo and behold, they were at the wrong cabin, but they sent me a picture. There was a hunting dog that showed up. No hunting collar, but he had a collar. Of course, Courtney came down and read the collar, and she called the owner and came and got him. And it was that simple. Okay, so when we get an animal control officer, fixing problems sometimes can be that simple. Okay, the dog evidently knew where the damn deer were. Well, thank you. I thank you, and it was that simple. Okay, The dog was just, he said, well, why am I running? I'm here. And so, and this is going to make a lot of difference, I guess, when we have a facility where we can do things. I'm still not all in on the killing them. I am agreeing that there are times. Okay, I personally have had a rabid Rottweiler in my backyard. Okay, and so I understand about there are needs, but thank you all for moving us forward. We're inching forward. We need to pick up the pace, but we have a lot of conflict. This community, our county, and Bryson City is growing exponentially and very fast. I'll tell everybody we're going to be built out in 7 to 8 years, and we need to be ready for things that are coming. Old news is old news. Let's stay abreast of everything, and there's simple solutions to everything. We don't have to make them complicated. Thank you all again.
Thank you, Eddie. All right, last, Miss Courtney Dills.
Until I get some of the answers I requested from the county.
All right. All right, moving on down, we'll go into voting items. First up is Via Health, Shelley Foreman.
To get the microphone in the right, I'm shorter than most people, so. First, let me introduce or reintroduce myself. My name is Shelley Foreman. I'm the Community Relations Regional Director for Via Health. First, I'd like to say welcome to you, Chairman Kirkland. Wish you the best of luck in your new role. And also just want to thank Commissioner Carson. He's been a longtime advocate for people with behavioral health issues and developmental disabilities, and been on the BIA Regional Board for some time. And thank you for your appointment of your second member last week. Amy is well versed in the needs of children, family, and adults in the community, and has a lot of experience. So we really appreciate her. Just a little bit in case you may not know, especially being new, Chairman Via Health is a public agency. We are overseen by the Department of Health and Human Services, and we manage Medicaid, federal, state funds for our population. So in the last year and a half, that role has expanded, and I put it in your packet just if you need to refer back to it. We have a health plan, and again, we're a public health plan called Via Total Care. And while we have been managing mental health, substance use, and developmental disability services for, almost 30 years now or longer. Last year, we also began managing their physical health care needs and their pharmacy needs. And the people in that health plan are people who have been diagnosed with moderate to severe behavioral health issues or have a developmental disability. And so now we also manage their physical and pharmacy needs. And I can say we had a report in the this last year. We've managed some of our first patient transplants, which I think is pretty impressive. We also manage a program called Medicaid Direct, and that would be for people who aren't in one of the managed care plans. They're both public and private, but they still might need behavioral health services. So while we don't manage their physical health care needs, we do manage their behavioral health and developmental disability needs. And lastly, we manage state funds, and those are for individuals who are in need of behavioral health or substance use services only, and are in developmental disability disability services, but don't have insurance. So they don't have Medicaid or they do not have private insurance, and those funds are allocated through the General Assembly. So that's just to put it in a nutshell, the population that we manage. I wanted to give you an update about some things that really are coming to bear across the state of North Carolina related to Medicaid especially. I will say I wanted to talk to you about the Rural Health Transformation Program. This is a program that is federal funding, so it's from the U.S. Congress, and it's federal funding to increase access to care and improve health outcomes for North Carolina's rural communities. How did this funding come into existence? Well, you know, with every good news, there's sort of some challenging news. So this federal legislation came about because of the enactment of Medicaid cuts that are projected to reduce Medicaid funding for North Carolina. So this is North Carolina only, by 49.9 billion years over a 10-year period. So if those Medicaid reductions remain in effect, that is how much the state of North Carolina will lose in Medicaid funding, which is obviously significant. So what the Congress did at that point is they developed a program, the Rural Health Transformation Program. Is 5 years of funding. That funding is time limited, so it's non-recurring, and it will put $50 billion over a 5-year period into healthcare. The first 25, so half of that funding is split evenly across all 50 states. So we know that North Carolina will get $100 million a year. The second $25 billion is competitive, and the Center for Medicaid Services will decide how that funding is spent. What are the goals of this program? Make rural America healthy. Sustainable access to care, and that really focuses on preventative care, primary preventative care, as well as behavioral health. So we were at least excited to see that. Workforce development, which we know is a really important issue in our rural communities with the difficulty in recruiting and retaining qualified health and behavioral health staff. Innovative care, so I think that's working more towards integrated care models where primary care offices may have a social worker or looking at how they can do things in a more creative way. And last but not least, looking at technological improvements, which really are looking at either, system-wide technology improvements or technology for members and recipients to help them better understand and access healthcare. North Carolina, actually, their application, thinking probably went in this week. As soon as we get some word on what their application looked like and some of the fleshing out of some of these goals, I will send that to you if it comes before I'm here again. But their plan is really to improve access to rural hospitals and healthcare. We know our rural hospitals are very much dependent on Medicaid, so hopefully they'll put an emphasis on maintaining care for people close to home, strengthening the rural healthcare workforce, fostering provider partnerships. As I said, looking at how providers can work together in a more creative way, and improving health outcomes for our rural residents. They collected a variety of feedback through the fall. The application should go in hopefully by this week. They are very much hoping, Department of Health and Human Services is hoping to hear by the end of this year, December 31st, if we were successful. Again, remember, we know we're getting half of it, like 100 million a year for that 5 years. We are going to apply for that competitive funding, so we should know hopefully by the first of the year. And then what the department will do is really then begin working with the communities and providers about how they're going to make this a reality. So more to come on that. So at least we have that little bit of grace funding in between the Medicaid cuts and this funding. So a little bit about VIA Health update. So this is probably no news to you. I say that sort of kiddingly, but as you know, the North Carolina General Assembly has still not passed its final budget. They have passed what they call a mini budget, and that budget is basically the budget, as you know, to continue funding until they reach their final budget. The mini budget, every time they redo the budget, so every time the state really looks at the budget, the Department of Health and Human Services and the Division of Medical Assistance submits the information to the General Assembly about what the Medicaid costs have been and projections for the future, which is called the Medicaid rebase. So as they looked at the mini budget, the General Assembly did not fully fund the request by the Department of Health and Human Services to cover the cost of Medicaid for this upcoming fiscal year. So Governor Stein and Secretary Sanjay did send out a joint communication because there's been ongoing impasse with the budget that Medicaid rates would be reduced. So this is a state mandate that the North Carolina Medicaid rates will be reduced to providers. They implemented those rate reductions on October 1st. VIA waited a month till November 1st to implement rate reductions, hoping that when they came back, as you remember in October, that they would maybe come to some agreement and mitigate those rate reductions, which unfortunately did not happen. So, and I'm sure you will be hearing this in your community, that Medicaid providers, their rates have been cut by either 3%, which was many of the services. There were also targeted reductions of up to 8 and 10% for some key services. So that's a significant rate reduction. The department felt they had to implement those rate reductions because without the guarantee of being fully funded, they would have run out of Medicaid funds by the end of the fiscal year had they not implemented them. So we are eagerly awaiting the General Assembly to hopefully reconsider their Medicaid funding to offset those rates, because we do know it will not only impact our providers, but members in the community. Quickly, in the mini budget, and there's been really no discussion of changing this, I mentioned that VIA manages state funding for people with no insurance. VIA is looking, and VIA, this is just VIA, looking at a $6 million rate reduction over the probably 2-year period for state funds. And more to come on the Child and Family Specialty Plan waiver. I know I was here some months ago talking about that, but as of December 1st, Blue Cross Blue Shield and Healthy Blue will begin managing the Medicaid services for kids in foster care. So with all that news, I did want to give you an update just very quickly on some good news in the community. With Hurricane Helene funding, VIA was able to receive, and we're working with a variety of our community nonprofits and providers for a program called Hope for NC. Hope for NC provides information, support, connection to resources for people impacted by Hurricane Helene. There's information on the PowerPoint. If you know of anyone in your community who still has needs related to Helene and the Helene flooding, or damage, they may contact that number. You can always reach out to me. because this is really an important thing, and it includes crisis counselors, community liaisons, and linkage to care. And I just included a map in here for you, which shows the counties that were included, and Swain County is one of those counties that was covered. And last but not least, just a couple projects new for Swain County. The first two are projects that really serve Far West, but are really important for residents of Swain County. For the first time ever, Via Health was able to work with the Cherokee Hospital Indian Authority to develop a contract, and this is specific to Via Health Medicaid members, our Via Total Care members. We now are able to utilize and have beds at the Anna Lenishki inpatient behavioral health inpatient unit at the hospital. So if they're adults, they have to be adults and people not under involuntary commitment, but people who need inpatient care, we can help them get into Anna Lenishki, which is a wonderful resource for especially Jackson and Swain counties and Graham. The other service is a behavioral health urgent care, which is located at the Balsam Center for Hope and Recovery. That is a 24/7 urgent care facility. It can be used by law enforcement. If someone is having a crisis, they can do involuntary commitment exams. They're able to do crisis exams and help triage and keep people after the assessment and help them find the necessary treatment, whether it's an inpatient stay, a stay at a residential facility or back in the community. And we really think that's a wonderful service and really would love to have you use it as much as possible. And then lastly, we know that addiction, that treatment for substance use disorders is a really important need. We're working with one of our wonderful providers, Dr. Matt Holmes. He has an addiction treatment clinic. He's a psychiatrist. He has one in Haywood, one in Macon. And through some of our Hurricane Helene funding, we were able to help him purchase a mobile unit where he will be able to work with community partners here in Swain County to offer addiction treatment here in the county. Physically, he will have his mobile unit in the county to provide addiction treatment. And he is a very trusted and valuable treatment provider. So that's a lot of information, but I just wanted to give you those updates and see if you have any questions. I'd ask you yell at me because my ears are a little clogged from allergies and cold.
Anybody got any questions?
All right. Well, I can only take questions from the commissioners when I'm up here. Thank you, though. Thank you so much for your time. Again, good luck. I hope all is well. And I will see you soon. And I will send you information on our application or the state's application for the Rural Health Transformation Act. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, moving on down, we'll have Fontana Regional Library Agreement Amendment.
So this is just for discussion tonight. So if you remember, it's been probably a year and a half ago, we went through this agreement, Macon, Jackson, and Swain counties that are in this agreement with Fontana Regional Library. So it is, this is some amendments. As you know, back in June, Jackson County has opted to pull out. So these are some amendments that they have talked about that they would like to see made. So if we go through, there's 3 amendments in here, and it is in red. So the first amendment is the structure of the Board of Trustees. Right now, we each have 3 members from the county. What they would like to see is that one of those members be a commissioner. Right now, the 3 are appointed by the commissioners from the public. They would like to see one that is one of the commissioners being set on that board. The next amendment is on the next page. Currently, the regional director serves in a dual role as a librarian. So what they would like to see is that dual role be brought back, which would mean that there would still be a librarian. This is Jackson County's librarian right now. And they would like to have that regional director role brought so that they are answering directly to the board and there's not a dual role any longer. So that's the second change. And then the third change is just a few more pages back in red. And what this is a request that says after the audit and calculation of payables is done for Fontana Regional Library, any funds remained in excess of operational cost will be reimbursed to the counties in proportion to their respective contributions. So it's just going to allow for funding return if there is any left over for what the counties provide. So again, this is the only three changes. The other amendment was approved before. We can talk about them if you have questions specific, and then it will have to be per this amendment. We have to wait 30 days to vote on it one way or the other. So it'll come back up in December for voting. But if we have questions or comments that we need to send back, we can do that as well.
Anybody got any questions, comments?
I think these three changes are okay. I think having a commissioner on there just gives better communication that, you know, one of us can bring back to the board during the meetings. And then it allows a librarian to be a librarian, not to have to be a executive director. I think it would help in that aspect of things, being able to do their jobs to the best of their abilities, in my opinion. I have no issues with these changes.
Me either.
So anytime we can communicate better is the best way.
That's it.
So if something comes up before then and now, we can always talk about something again. But like I said, it'll go back on the regular session because it is a 30-day wait.
Okay.
As of right now, you don't know whether Jackson County's gonna pull out or not.
No, they talked about it as well in their meeting this week. So hopefully they also will have the 30-day waiting. So it will be December for everyone to know. But the hope would be that they will stay in with these amendments.
That's it. I'm moving on down to C, the Affordable Housing Committee appointment.
So we discussed this in the work session. Cindy did follow up with each of the people that were appointed at the beginning of the fiscal year. And there was only one that said that she could no longer do it. So we have one opening on the Affordable Housing Committee. You have two nomination and appointment forms that were completed. The first one for Thomas Deals, he has actually been coming and sitting in like as a volunteer almost. So he actually applied for the appointment, and then the second one being Garrett Lane. So again, there's one appointment for two people applying.
I know there was some question about one of them being abroad. Was he back in the state?
He's not, but he still wants to be included.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do we, that was gonna be my question.
Well, he was talking like Zoom or like a online meeting. I mean, it may be some work, but it may be a discussion that we need to have with him more in depth. We were just, talking, and
Okay.
when he was called, he said, yes, he wants to still be a part of the committee.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we do Thomas Deals.
Second, if he's interested enough to go volunteer.
Yeah, he's done there. What comments, questions? All raise a hand, show right hand. Passage unanimous. All right, moving on down is D is request funding from Mark Sale. Article 46.
The last school board meeting, I presented the opportunity to correct some issues that we need to address in the capital area of the school system. One is we need to replace a motor for a flatbed. It's a 6.0 diesel. Right now, the flatbed is sitting at the bus garage, is inoperable. It's a dump bed. Raised, the sides will raise on it. We need that in our maintenance department to do agricultural work and to carry things around. We also need it to help pull the lawnmowers. We currently have a single axle dump truck. I believe it's an 86. It has some steering and some brake issues. It's pulling the lawnmower trailer. Sometimes we wonder which hill it'll make it up and which one it won't. This will allow us to make sure that we can get our equipment around. BC Automotive will be replacing it at a cost of $23,000 plus a little change. It's cheaper than buying a new truck, which is looking like it's going to run around $69,000. I believe that it's most fiscally sound move. Again, this is coming out of Article 46. You have in your hands a drawing of a batting cage. We currently have a baseball batting cage. It is used by our softball team. However, we find that there are times whenever there is schedule conflict. For several years, we've been asked to supply a second batting cage for the softball team. We have room behind left field of the softball field. It's going to run somewhere around $25,000 for the materials. Our three-man team will be building that along with Bobby Jenkins and his team if we can get them to cut loose and come and help us. I would like for that to happen if that's a possibility. We need to get that in place preferably before February, and I would like to go ahead and start getting moved on that. We have several garage doors that have seen quite a few years of use. One of those garage doors is up at the arts, not the art center, excuse me, at the performance center, which is where the weights and the wrestling team do a lot of their work. This particular request does not include that. We're going to fund that from some of our other capital funding. However, there are other storage doors for the baseball field, for the track and field, and also the door at the back of the arts center needs a new motor so that door will go up by itself rather than using the chain lift, okay? Those are going to cost about $15,000 to replace from the same company. That's the best quote that we have. Speaking of the Performing Arts Center, it was built somewhere between 25 and 30 years ago. The lighting system on the stage is the original lighting system. The board that runs the lights on the stage is the original light board. You could not replace that light board if you wanted to. So if something were to happen, we would be down, and it would take quite a bit of time and quite a bit of money to get that replaced. Joe Holt has been after me for about 3 years to go ahead and upgrade that light system to LED, and also for us to replace the board and include a system that will allow us to run that with a different level of power usage. It also will create less heat. The lights that we have in there now are called hot lamps. They actually have incandescent bulbs like you would put in a really high-powered lamp. These will be LED. It'll cut the heat need down. Plus, it'll keep people from having to climb up on ladders all the time and to reset the lights because they will be on motorized turns and lifts. This is a three-phase replacement. The first phase replaces the board and the structure that will go at the top of the stage to plug the lights into. Plus, there will be about 4 lights that will be new that will get with that. The current lights that we have will also work with this system. It's backwards compatible. So the first stage is to replace the board and the infrastructure with a few lights. The second stage will be down the road where we'll start adding additional lights to that in a piecemeal fashion. The first phase of the project is $50,000. I remember trying to find a way to replace that light system about 5 years ago. At that point in time, the going price was about $300,000 for the whole thing. Now we are down to somewhere less than $150,000 after waiting and the materials becoming more common. We would like to go ahead and begin that process and have the infrastructure and the board replaced next summer. The total request from Article 46 tonight is $115,000. We have currently over $700,000 sitting in that fund balance right now, and it continues to replenish itself at somewhere around the income of about $50,000 a month based on that half-cent sales tax. I'd be happy to answer any questions that I possibly can on that if you have any.
Did I hear you say your truck was a 6.0?
It's a 6.0 diesel, yes, sir. The plan is to replace it with a 6.0.
Gosh, that thing, get another one. 6.0
Yeah.
with a dime.
I would love, David, to just replace the whole truck. But right now, the most fiscally responsible thing, I believe, is to replace the motor. And then, David, we're working on a replacement cycle for all of our maintenance trucks. Because we just got one out of the shop and I've got two more back in right now.
What was the total on replacing that engine?
The total for replacement is $23,055.71.
How many places did you check?
We went to BC Automotive. I didn't do any of the checking on that. If you would like for us to try and find a cheaper solution for that, I'd be happy to.
Leave out and check around. That sounds kind of expensive just to replace the motor.
That's outside of my expertise, but I'll talk to Tommy about that and see what we can do. Now, I would appreciate it if you would consider going ahead and approving this with the understanding that we'll find the most responsible solution for that, not to go over 2355. Okay?
Maybe you could check around and at least give some opportunities to bid on it.
We'd be pleased to do that.
Any more questions?
Thank you all for your time and for your consideration tonight.
Thank you. Have a motion to vote on this?
Like a motion.
By second?
I'll second.
I got a second. Show of right hands, all in favor? All opposed? 4-1. All right, moving on down to E, we're gonna do the minutes. All right, in all of this, we'll do them all together. The October 7th work session minutes, the October 21st public hearing, October 21st public hearing number 2, October 21st regular session, and the October 28th special session. Got a motion? All in favor? Pass unanimous. All right, moving on down to new business. Anybody?
Mr. Chairman, last Sunday at a church, my phone started blowing up and I don't do internet and stuff. But people was wanting me to look on the internet. I got my wife to pull it up. There was a dog on Larka. Its chain growed in its neck. And I done a little research, went to the 911 to where they had called. They started calling on the 3rd of the month, and I believe we was up into the 9th or 10th before anything was done. They'd called animal control. Animal control was supposed to have called them back. And a couple of people, they never got a call back. They called. And it was a slow process. And finally, one of them talked to the animal control. And that weekend, but the man don't work on the weekend to do nothing with it. It was a pretty bad situation. The deputies was called a couple times and sent out, but the dog was still there. And it was Monday morning before they done anything with it. But I guess there's no animal, we do no cruelty to animals or nothing on the weekend. We just do it during the week. But something needs to be done there. I've got to the recordings of the 911 here on one of these little things you plug in a computer. And I've got the other printouts here of how many calls was made and the response to their calls, if anybody's interested in seeing it. But, that's one thing I was wanting to talk about. If we're gonna have an animal control, which I see it coming and we're going to. Let's, did we ever run that job, Lottie? As an animal control person?
Well, we're doing animal services, but yes, for the position,
For the
yeah, that's where we
position.
got the second person.
I don't,
Is that what you
that's
mean?
where we got, but did we run it as the main person or we just going to?
The director was a long time ago. That's how, Jerry went into that, so it was internally, because again, that's policy. It goes out internally.
Okay, because his title is a building superintendent.
So it was project manager when it started. Like he was overseeing the
Well,
project and then
How did he go from, what did we say,
project manager.
project manager to animal control?
Because it was the same position per se in the budget, because there was a budgeted position. But that would have been when he started as overseeing the project and then received certifications and training and things like that.
So after he overseed the project, then when the project's done, then we turn into. animal
No, it was almost like a dual role, because he was doing
control,
both.
dual role.
hmm
But we never run the job openly.
Not out in the public, no, it would have been internally.
Our county, that's the way we hire any employees on.
It goes out internally normally. Now we've started doing both. We do it dually. We do internally and externally.
Who else have we ever hired dually that way?
Well, we hire people all the time when we have
Dually
jobs
as-
open.
yeah.
Oh, dual roles. No.
He would be the only one?
I mean, we have a lot of people that carry roles and have responsibilities that are not related to their jobs, or would not normally be part of their job. But as far as having two titles per se, yeah.
I know some other people that would like to put in for that job,
Mhm.
that has experience, the schooling and the knowledge too. But, if we do it, just pass it down like that from one project to another, I think it's unfair for those people that wants to put in. But, I believe it's a done deal, who's gonna be it. how
I mean,
it's
I
gonna
guess my
go.
question would be, we did advertise for the officer position. With those people, because I think we only
I
had
don't
like
much believe they
one,
wanted to be in the office.
sure.
But moving on from that, I've got something else, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to talk about. We build buildings, we build animal control buildings, and we can't tell how much we've got in them because we don't keep up with the labor.
Mhm.
At the children's home, it's nice. I went and looked at it. Real good job. How much have we got in it?
Well, total, that building project, because obviously labor, the building project was 145, so 125 was the grant, and then we allocated the additional 20,000.
So how much labor have we got in the animal control building? There's allotted 500,000, $500,000. How much have we got?
The last number we had, I think it was like 640. I think we were about 147 over.
Not counting labor.
Correct.
We need, it's taxpayers' money. Taxpayers' money, y'all, and not, it's gonna help pay. We've got to come up with something to where every day, each department writes down what they've done, how many man hours you've got in each thing, even you lot, you need to, at the end of the day, fill out a piece of paper that tells us what you did and what you accomplished that day, that we paid you. Same way with special buildings.
Let me tell you
Same way
something.
with.
Now,
Does anybody agree with me? You cannot run a company, and basically this county is a business. And us taxpayers is the one that keeps the business going. We cannot just have open reign to go out and do whatever you want, spend as much money as you want, and sit here and not be able to tell me how much money we have. And that's basically what you're doing. I cannot tell you.
No,
See,
not with labor.
we may have been able to hire a private contractor to build either one, the kids' home or the animal shelter, and save money, which you probably know you could, because you would not be paying insurance on your workers. You would not be paying vacation time on your workers. I mean, we gotta be smarter than what we are. Or maybe we are smarter. We just don't want to do it no other way than the way we always have.
David, I agree with you in some aspects. I think we could look department to department, because I think if you do, finance office, and I'm just using them, you might get, I sat at a desk all day with numbers. I mean, I don't see the need in that, but I do see the need in a maintenance saying, hey, I got 10 yards done today and fixed the mower, or something to that aspect of it. I do see where you're saying in that, but I don't see the need to actually go through every department and say, okay, rec park person answered 20 phone calls today. Yeah, we know they're going to answer 20 phone calls. I don't see every department.
You brought this up at another meeting. I've contacted 3 different counties. Jackson County has 4 crews that does about the same thing our crew does. None of them keeps up with any kind of time. I contacted Graham County. None of them keeps up with it.
We're not Jackson, or we're not.
I contacted Clay
We're
County.
Swain County.
3 counties said they don't do it. Said it take too much time, and the employees are getting paid anyway, whatever they're doing. So
Would it take 10 minutes in the evening? I worked construction for years on some big jobs. That was part of my job.
you work for a private contractor.
That was my job. Well, You're working
Yeah,
for
a
a
private
private
contractor would
contractor,
want to keep
Bobby.
up with their time.
you're working for the private contractor. The contractors is all the citizens of this county. And I think at the end of a project, like either one I just spoke about, you ought to be able to go back and see how much labor and how much it's common sense that you ought to be able to do.
And I think a lot of it, David, it reflects back to your department heads. I think, they need to know exactly what their workers are doing.
Exactly.
And, the department heads is the one that needs to be accountable for what them guys are doing. Whether that means they keep a record, I don't know about all that, but at the end of the day, if you see Bobby's guys running around town or something, the finger needs to be pointed at him. He needs to make sure they're doing what they need to be doing, But I don't know exactly how you go about all that.
Possibly, I believe that in the sheriff department, don't they have a checkout and in the shift, there's a report given by officers? Maybe some kind of report where it's just knowledgeable about what we're spending on projects? I mean,
There's no way to compare it, y'all. I mean, here she says we have this much in it. And that's leaving out the total cost of how much it took to do it.
Yeah, you don't know.
You don't know, and that's not right.
But I see
We've got
Bobby.
to know.
I
what's
see
going
Bobby's side. I talked to a guy that works for the state one time, and he said, they don't do us either, because he said, it don't matter what I'm doing, I'm getting paid. And I see where he's coming from. You know, they got a lot going on. I don't know how you do it either. I mean,
I sit in the truck every evening and done it within 5 minutes. I can tell you what my crew done and what they accomplished that day.
Mhm.
And at the end of the week, I had 4 of them papers that I mailed in with my time. Took me 10 minutes at the most to do it. And I'm sure that our people that works for us could do it too. I mean, if you wanted to, but I think it's a good thing, and it would take a copier just to run off a few copies, and we wouldn't even be having this discussion, because when the building was building, she could look back and she could tell you exactly how long it took, how many people done it, and where they all worked at, and there wouldn't be no question asked about it. I mean, anybody that runs any kind of construction, that's the way they do it. I mean, it's not that hard. It's not that complicated. Bobby would have his, the mowing people would have theirs, the rec park would have theirs. And it's no big deal. And there wouldn't be a question about it, Jake. It would be right in front of you. All she would have to do is look and she could tell you exactly how much labor and cost it was, add that right on top of the cost, and then we could compare it and we could see if we was coming ahead or going behind. To me, it would be a smart business move for a business for the county. And I see what you're saying too, Tanner, like the lady that works in, I mean, their job, you pretty well know what you're doing every day, you know? But these that's got crews out here doing, especially things that us taxpayers is paying for, let's keep an eye on it and see where it's going.
Also, I think this has been a learning experience too. I think, you know, instead of using in-house, we do turnkeys, you know, turnkey contracts. I mean, that way we know where our money is going. And I just, you know, I've always thought that contracting out would be better than doing it in-house, because like you say, we don't always know.
There's no way of knowing.
So I think it's a good learning experience, and I think it's something that we can look into for certain departments. But I would be a little leery to do it for every department for sure. So, but I do agree in some aspects of that.
Try it for a year and see how it works. You know where your money was going anyway, you know?
Yep.
It'll help us utilize the money we do have. Know what it's gonna cost us to have a better estimate. It's just, you know, we're always asking for more money to finish projects, and that's fine, but if we took the time maybe to inspect the projects, if we took the time to go ahead and take the 10 minutes at the end of the day and say, look, I have 4 minutes over here doing this and that. So in the end, we can say, well, we've got, you know, 1,600 hours on this project, so you know basically what the cost is, plus material.
Yeah.
It's a good way of knowing.
Mr. Chairman, we just got asked to help the school with another project. We go up there and do it, and we don't keep up with what hours we've got in it. How are we gonna even know what we've got in it? Like the light show and stuff, I'm sure our people does a lot of work up there. How do you know what we've got in it and what we're doing? We need to, it's simple, and to me, it makes a lot of sense. You've got to know what's going on and how much money you have in something.
Lonnie, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry to,
Go ahead.
but with the light show particularly, they work for the TDA, correct? So I think they fill out a timesheet for them.
Yeah,
So,
and they pay them.
and they
They
pay.
pay.
If it's someone that's doing something for the light show.
Yeah. So that's not us. That's the TDA who does that.
Even when they're working for the light show, but we'd be the ones that keep the insurance. So if they got hurt up there or something, it would fall back on our insurance.
The only people that are doing anything for the light show is maintenance.
But
If the other people that are up there are
if
voluntary.
maintenance, we've got the insurance and stuff on it. So if they went up there and got electrocuted or so on and so on, which I hope they don't, but it would fall to us.
Well, all of a sudden, this is all a big issue to you. We've been doing it for 13 years, and this is the first time it's come up. We've never kept up with our time on any project, and I've been doing it for 13 years.
Maybe we ordered them years ago. Maybe we ordered them. We would have done a lot of things different, yeah. It's time this county opens its eyes and does something different while we've got a county to do with. I've got a year, one more year to sit here, and I wouldn't do this job again for $5,000 a week, sit down here and deal with this mess. And it's beyond me why anybody wants to. But if that don't make no sense to you, and what I'm trying to tell you, I don't know how ever to make no sense. This county's been running the ground for years. And what do they say? Insanity's doing the same thing over and over and over and getting the same results. Let's do something different and see if it'll work.
Tanner, you got anything?
Yeah, just a couple things. Just a thought. We own some property out there on Buckner's Branch, the old landfill site. It just sits out there.
And we don't own it.
Oh, no, sorry, we don't, excuse me, yes.
do not own it.
Thank you for correcting me. It's Forest Service land. But I mean, it just sits out there and, it doesn't get used. I don't know how we would go about this. We would have to work with the Forest Service with this. But I would like to see us maybe have a conversation with them about turning it into some type of recreation area, whether it be a green space or maybe a shooting range for, our police department and our shooting team and things like that, or a place for a pavilion. I don't know how, what's possibly seeping through the ground or anything, or if we could even use it. The worst thing that somebody could say is no, but it's a great piece of property. I mean, worst thing, like I said, is we can say no. It's just something for us to think about.
You always ask.
Yeah. So, I mean,
There is new leadership there now. And it might, they might consider that.
It'd be an ideal spot for a shooting team, but,
I mean, I think our 4-H club is, part of that shooting team stuff. And I think, it'd be great for them to have a good spot to go to and just,
Pretty close.
yeah, it's close to town. It's not that far. I think it would be a great idea just to throw out there. We could run it. We could, have two things. We could have a greenway and we could have a shooting range and just have, days where it's a shooting range and days where it's a greenway. Kind of like what Solly does with their horsebacking and their trail riding. There are ways that we can do that, but it's a great thing to maybe look at and just say, hey, here's the possibility. What do y'all think? With the service, Forest Service, something just to throw out there. It'd be good for our local people. It'd be another community area where people could go have a birthday party. Maybe a possible small playground up there. Something just to think about. Just something that was rattling in my head. Had a couple people too reach out to me about that. And then the last thing that just for us to think about, our employee handbook hasn't been revised in I don't know how long. It's the same that it was when I was working at the chamber. One thing I'd like to see us do is go through that handbook and update it, make it up to the 21st century. Just make it plausible, and then also make sure that our employees are following that handbook, because that's what it's there for. It's for guidance for our employees. So maybe after the holidays we can sit down and kind of start going through that page by page. I know it's a pretty big book, so that was just a couple of things I had in my mind floating around.
You got anything? Bobby?
Mr. Chairman, one more thing. Somebody brought my attention that the rec park is closed. Is the rec park closed?
During the day, it's due to staffing issues right now.
Closed during the day
Mm-hmm.
because of,
Staffing issues.
what would be them issues?
We don't have people to
We
work
don't
it.
have
We've
no
got,
employees?
not right now.
That's not a good thing, is it?
We have an advertisement out, so if somebody's looking for a job, they can apply.
Is that everything? All right, if so, we'll move on down. Need a motion to adjournment?
I second the motion.
All in favor? Passes unanimously.